something wrong?
Monsieur Neurvalette and Lady Farina, they seem to have got...
Like I said, I've already explained everything!
And yet the problem has not been properly It is not my intention to offend you, but please, tell me where you... Look at this. This...
You mean... they're all...
We did not arrive in time to avert this disaster, and I will not have it happen again. I will say this once more. You must tell me. Yesterday, I found 3 stone slates in some ancient ruins near Poisson.
Seriously? You're questioning me like this is a court case now. I don't... but you found them in some ancient...
That's correct, which is why I came to ask you some questions.
The prophet...
The second of these slates depicts the previous Hydro Archon Egeria kneeling before a floating island in the sky, as if...
I don't! I've never seen...
I'll ask you again. Do you really have... My deciphering of the slates indicates that the Hydro Archon Egeria once had to confess...
All gods don't have the same secrets, you know. She was herself and I'm me. Is it really so strange that I know nothing? I understand your concerns, but...
Forgive me for saying this now, Lady Farina, but I have long... There are several indications that you have been This is not strange in itself, considering that you are the Hydro Archon. But you have never been as superficial as you have presented yourself to be, nor are you a fool. And yet, your behavior is very inconsistent.
So you've been watching me all this time, have you? I didn't think you were that type.
You...
Well, since you know about my secret investigations, then you should... There's no point questioning or suspecting me. You're the Eudix, but you're still my subordinate. You should be following my lead. Just trust in me. You're Archon, and do as I say. That's all I have to say. We do not discuss this matter again. Oh, the opera's about to...
Did Farina not notice us standing by the door? Wonder what's up with her. She was smiling.
I assume you've been outside for a while now?
Oh! You noticed! Seems Farina didn't even realize...
She was in a great panic, though I cannot discern the reason. Our discussion... Still, I do not understand. Dialogue is the... Everyone in her inner circle has noticed that she is... We may have to create a situation in which...
Oh?
Normally, people will only reveal the truth when standing trial. Perhaps we must have the high...
But Farina's seen so many trials, and she's really good at dodging questions.
We will need to consider this thoroughly. Join forces with various... If at all possible, I would prefer to recuse myself. This may be cruel to her, but all Fontaine is in crisis. The information... But who will lend us their aid to...
Well, that's everyone, huh? Speaking of which, it was pretty smart of you to think of hiding here.
Poisson was just involved in a disaster, so it's presently devoid of people.
And here you are drinking tea like it's the most natural...
That's what families should do.
It's nice to enjoy tea here, you know? Care for a cup?
Lend me your ears, everyone. Or perhaps one of you might like to start us off. How about you, friend?
Me? No.
Then, how about you, good sir?
I fear that I will cause the mood on this boat to become as somber as it is in court.
Well then, I guess we're lucky we've got a local like me to organize things. Wonderful.
That was a little long-winded, don't you think?
Oh, You might be right. Anyway, to cut to the chase, our friend here, as for what that is, well, let's start by saying that we'll be pooling our—
Oh, how intriguing.
Well, it's just an expression, really. One that I just—
Huh? Didn't you say that
Oh, come now. Your work doesn't involve much public speaking, right? This is a good chance to—
I see. And what does my boss say?
He is glad that you consider him your boss.
In that case, do any of you have experience hunting?
Not that I recall.
Fremine and I once used a wooden stick in a basket to catch wild rabbits when we were younger.
I've also gone...
I'm afraid not. You may or may not have heard, but though that was their name, they did not hunt animals, but rather various monsters left behind. Today, Fontaine's monster population has already thinned greatly, so the hunters have blended back into society. A trap comprises of the following components: bait, a trigger, and a container. So, if we were—
For me, I would prefer something basket-shaped. Our line of work requires a deft hand.
You used some of those techniques while moving the people of Poisson, didn't you? My subordinate—
Yes, and I even managed to get—
I'm afraid I can't claim that as my strong suit. I prefer more
Common stuff.
And I can be their assistant.
with discretion, I'm sure.
I'd probably use some sort of mechanical animal. I remember that you liked those—
I did. And that would—
What about you, Monsieur Neuvillette?
I fear I do not...
That makes sense. You usually— But I do have one more question for you. If we were to create a trap now—
I would like for it to be effective, but bring no...
Kind, as always, if we wanted to kill the prey in one strike, we would need a powerful implement. However, that also goes for prey that must be captured, and
Wait, why—
only a hunter who's a true expert at subduing their prey can—
Huh. We hadn't thought of seeing ourselves.
If our means of capturing and dealing with our prey is to put them on trial, then the hunting metaphor is apt, but we shall require much more courage than any hunter to judge a god.
Oh, so that's what...
It's been a tough few days, hasn't it? Paimon didn't think the meetings would— Paimon thought they'd be at least a little frightened. Well, Fremine was, now that Paimon thinks about it, but everyone— it's hard to say. Paimon doesn't have any— After all, you're the most reliable person in the world, aren't you? Did you just pour some tea? Paimon then what's that? Paimon's never seen that cup before.
Don't be frightened. I'm just...
Who's that voice?
Aw, have you forgotten me already?
Wait, you are familiar. You're the voice—
The voice from the sky, I fear... You're feeling lost now, just as you were feeling previously. Consider me a passerby, just accepting a commission from my friend's disciple. The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future.
What? Then is there an—
I believe you have witnessed a failed attempt with your own eyes. Can everything in Tevat so easily be changed? So you've caught on. Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods. Could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods' gaze does not fall? Are the things that you shall see
What is she talking about? It all sounds really impressive and important and stuff, but it also sounds kind of scary.
I believe that you understand, right? Some things are insignificant, but ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide. This was good tea, by the way.
The voice. Alright. Hey, it's you who's getting lazy, okay?
Well, I see I've walked in on some lively banter.
Mona!
Fine, just fine. Not all Fontanians are pessimistic about this. One journalist mentioned that sitting around...
Did she have pink hair back?
Why, yes! It was Charlotte. I'm in full support of her view. Prophecies are very...
That's right!
Yes. About what we had discussed before. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't reach the old hag. I'll try again tonight. Huh? Goodness gracious. Are you serious?
She said that even the god's gaze has blind spots. Pretty bold if you ask Paimon. Most people would believe the gods to be...
The Hexen Circle members are certainly anything but ordinary. As for the mage named N, the old hag has mentioned her a few times. But I've never met her, and if she were still alive, she'd be... Well, suffice it to say that the hag's at least a few hundred now, and N's been around for longer than that.
Whoa. The Hexen Circle sounds like a scary group.
Their abilities alone are pretty terrifying. If she came to see you personally, then...
Well, it's not like Paimon could understand any...
Yes, she was quite cryptic, but I suspect she means that there is still a way to turn things around. Perhaps it is something that you cannot know right now. Traveler?
Oh, we're fine. We're just...
I see. I guess you could consider me someone who has often witnessed fate, but even so, I still hope for and believe in miracles. Perhaps that's what N was trying to tell you. I did originally think of steering clear of all this, but I couldn't. Even if this is all futile.
Huh. You do have a point.
There I go, talking about astrological prints. It was worth trying to comfort you, even if only... I suppose that might be why we always seem to meet by...
Paimon feels kind of moved by what Mona said. But, hey, Traveler, Paimon suddenly... Let's walk around the city, shall we? There's a few spots we always like to walk by. Huh? Our names are written in the... Let Paimon see! The underwater stronghold, the Fortress of Meripede, has my recent attempts to enter the fortress bore little... Thus, did an Outlander friend become the focus of this report. A blinded friend... So while the fortress's interior remains a mystery behind closed doors, do not... Journalist Charlotte's biggest scoop yet. The Traveler's Trail, worldwide... Huh. Charlotte took so many awesome photos of us, she hasn't been able to get a hold of anything at the fortress, so since we're seriously? Well, fine. the last time we tried it, despite the tense situation.
One slice of cake, please.
Someone showed up after all. Oh, wait, you're the one from the Palais Mermonia.
Oh, are you here to buy cake too? It seems me.
Wait, did he?
That's right. Even he has his own preferences when it comes to.
Do you come here often?
Usually every day.
Every day?
It's part of my daily schedule.
Then what if someone told you one day that this place would be...
But why would it close?
Well, Paimon doesn't know either.
Oh, the prophecy. To be honest, I haven't paid much attention to that. No. It's the same for eating in general. You might not...
Huh.
Don't be sad. Excuse me, could I have 2 more? These 2 slices are for you. Sijuin said that this kind of
Oh, you know Sijuin?
I sure do. She was born She said that humans are creatures that are saddened easily. Yes, and you can... I've got something else to do, so I'll be going now. You...
And there she goes. All right, let's dig in. Paimon... It's more delicious than last time! And sure would be nice if we could always eat delicious food. Oh, we're near the Seabird office. Let's go look for Charlotte and have a chat.
Wow! If it isn't the Traveler and Paimon!
Ha! You've got some nerve! You just used us to make...
Oh, you needn't worry about that. I heard that you were in Poisson some time back, so I sent you a letter. It's all right, though. I've set aside the amount.
Really? Well...
You're almost a little too easy to win over, Paimon.
Oh, Paimon knows you're not...
Still, what brings you here all of a sudden?
When Mona mentioned you, we thought of coming to see you at work.
I see. It seems you've already bumped into me. So she mentioned me? What did she...
She said that you're a real...
Nice. In which case, can this dare do...
Huh? So your article...
Oh, of course it doesn't. That was more like live photography. What I'd like to do is dive deeper.
Yeah, are we even...
Why not? If I say you're worth an interview, then you're worth it.
Oh, and that...
Oh, so that's a yes? Ooh, splendid! I'll tell the editor-in-chief immediately. I'll have to apply for light. Whew, so much to get done now.
Wait, Charlotte, Paimon's still got a question for you.
And what's that?
If, just for example...
Huh, that's the prophecy you're talking about, isn't it? If you're seriously asking, then I might try and think of a way to leave Fontaine. Oh, but from what I've seen, most people don't know what they'd do should the worst come to pass. So in all likelihood, I'd probably still be prepping at the office for that interview. Just think about it. If this nation really were to be suddenly destroyed tomorrow, but I still successfully finish an exclusive interview with a truly unique person, and then do you know what I'd do? Well, I'd write that story, send it for printing, and use messenger pigeons to get copies. I'm not a dreamer, nor am I a workaholic, but I do love my job. And I'd be proud of... But anyway, that's my end.
That's so nice. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the sea, shall we? The sea breeze and scenery can be a pretty soothing Paimon's been thinking. If it wasn't Fontaine, but all of No, Paimon should ask... We've always been moving to the next destination, so we haven't spent much time thinking about these kinds of things. We didn't... You mean, still traveling? Huh. looks like he'll grow mold if you... But it's still better than the Fortress of Mirapede, that's...
Ah, so the two of you are still here. Wonderful.
Oh, you're from the Palais Mermonia, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Isadora. Monsieur Nervillet sent me to look for you two before. I heard that Not at all. I'm well aware that your friends... Yes, inside the Opera House. The Maréchaussée...
A riot?
Well, that said, Lady Farina was watching a performance at the Opera House. And while she was loudly accusing her of doing... And before she could respond, others started to join. The crowd continued to grow and protest against the Hydro Arc.
So people have started to put the blame on Farina.
I agree. People will naturally rely on God.
So what happened after that is...
Seeing that the situation was spiraling out of control and that further argument, the Maréchaussée Phantom had their hands full maintaining order and did not catch where Lady Farina had gone.
So, you mean...
That's right. The Maréchaussée has dispatched many people to search for her. That said, I don't think there's much to worry about. She is a god. Good. Monsieur Nervillet sent me to tell you about the situation, but...
Don't worry, this is more than...
Is that so?
Well, sounds like we should hurry over to Poisson then. If we know Farina, she won't try to fix things in this situation. And, as we also know, when Nervillet was talking to her in the Palais Mermonia, and it would be hard for her to... Paimon thinks Farina's probably taken the Well, what do you think? Paimon knows the answer, of course, but Paimon... In that case, there's not a moment... This place looks deserted. Guess all the survivors must have evacuated already. All that's left here are signs of devastation. Could Farina really be here? Let's try to find her as soon as possible. That's Farina, right over there.
What was meant to happen did happen after all. Everyone's dead. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Give up, Farina. There's no point in holding out. I'm sorry. But what can I even do other than to repeat? Who's that?
Don't worry, Farina. It's just us.
So it is...
Farina, you were
what do you mean, tear stains? Who did that They even dare to tout their archon! I must teach them a lesson. Oh, and I'm sure Nervillet and those people from the Maréchaussée Phantom are freaking out right next... Of course not!
Hey, there she is! The Hydro Archon's over there! Quick, after her!
Farina, those people seem to be after you.
They are? They're just some rabid fans who went, that's against the rules.
Farina just ran off! Quick, we have to catch up with her! This should be the place, right? Hey, Farina! There's a good hiding spot over here.
What is this place?
Hurry, they're almost here!
Fine, fine. I suppose haste is warranted. Lead the way. I merely gave in to the sheer enthusiasm.
Yep, that's a...
What's happening?
Yeah, a quake of this...
It can't be.
Well, there's no need to worry too much about that.
Yeah, but the people of Poisson... It's true. I've been investigating the prophecy for hundreds of years. I once had informants all over Tevat, searching for clues and feeding info. I've tried all kinds of ways, too, to hold back the sea. Anything to keep the coastline from advancing, but all my efforts proved to be futile in the end. Really, we cannot make an enemy of the divine. No matter what we do, the... Give up. Indeed, I've thought about giving up. Fate is really unreasonable, isn't it? It has no heart and obeys, but just now, it all became clear to me. As long as the final moment hasn't come, don't worry. Well, that's enough for now. Don't take any of what I just said seriously.
Come on! Paimon could have sworn you were...
Share my That's impossible. It was fated right from the... A witness. Yes, I've heard that you came to Tevat from beyond the stars, yes. In other words, you never belonged. And if Tevat is, in its entirety, a show on a stage, then you're just a spectator, aren't you? If that's the case...
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my opening performance. Now, without further ado, we may proceed to the trial of our god.
So this is what it is. Yes, you do not forget, however, that I am Focalor, the god of justice.
May I interpret these words as your refusal to stand trial? In that case, you will have the opportunity to defend your honor through a duel.
You would draw your blade against a god? I see. It seems like you have made up your mind.
Paimon can't believe it.
What the heck is going on? Did I just see an archon
Wow, how utterly...
Lady Farina, what is the
It would would seem that there has been a misunderstanding.
Looking for excuses again?
I raised my hands just now to indicate I will admit. I'm sorry, everyone. You are not the only one. But now, it is time for the Hydro Archon to show you her courage and resolve. I, Farina, will use this trial to show the world the true meaning of justice! This time, I will protect you. Applaud and rejoice! One of the most outrageous and fantastical arcs known to the opera epiclese is now unfolding before your eyes. Mark my words, this shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of Fontaine! The trial of the Hydro Archon, Focalor, will now begin!
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making...
Why does it feel like Farina just took over the whole thing? Like, come on! Didn't she just get forced to... Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic...
All right, then. Who will be...
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Also, please allow me to ask, Matthew, just how much work did you do to force me?
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather strict.
Navia, the president...
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the... Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something... So, we arranged for a second.
So, you mean... the ones...
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest magic performance in all of Fontanian history.
That's right. That house was a magic box.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the Opera Epiclese, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Areneas. Its cargo, of course, was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Farina. Without your help...
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the water. It was a lot of work for all of us.
So, in other words, the earthquake...
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran, you gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion... Also that as soon as I appeared...
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your
Thank you.
As for you, traveler, I suppose you'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived.
Oh?
It's fine. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through to the very end.
Madam Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this along. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission.
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Oh, let Paimon see. Wait. Then that means this document... So in other words, we can mythology of evidence every time we want. Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, all right?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. That's one for the... I didn't think that you'd wind up getting... This is the first time Monsieur Neuvillette had a difference of opinion with the Oratrice. Even the a Fatui Harbinger. She's an extraordinary person. Her instinct must mean something. The fortress of Meripede was almost destroyed in a single day. That I didn't witness that scene. According to Monsieur Neuvillette, both Child and that whale should have been in the I nearly lost my awesome friend Navia. To be honest, that still gives me shivers. The words of someone as extraordinary as a witch can probably only...
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, nerd. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. Of course, it is only natural for you.
That's true, but my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first place.
Wait, what was that? Lady Farina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty, but did I hear that right? She's not our Archon at all?
Charge accepted. Lady Farina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Farina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Farina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be anything other than your true Archon.
Yeah, even though Lady Farina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her very identity?
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Farina can be super irresponsible, but what grounds does that prosecutor have to make such a huge claim?
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no fooling their memory. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. Are you sure you want to commit to a charge that will never be upheld? If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the God of Justice that you will not have to face trial for making a false accusation. We will treat everything that's happened as a dramatic spectacle and move on with our lives. What do you say to that?
Huh. An argument with near impossible odds, huh? We have to not only refute Farina's claims.
Well, I tried to give you the chance to... And if I was not the
First of all, you may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you...
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to...
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally... But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse.
You sensed it too, huh, Neuvillette?
Lady Farina, is that...
Well, it is true that it's extremely...
Well, don't start celebrating too early now. Besides, every everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of, for centuries, manifestations of my authority have. One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this very opera house, or consider the indemnitium that is used in every aspect of life.
You tried to reference the Oratrice, but weren't you at—
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the god—
Lady Farina, I believe a reminder of your current— While the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law must— You will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charge.
I never thought.
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Farina. I've merely reiterated the rules.
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty. Instead of having been created by you, the manifest—
The real Hydro Archon. Well, now you're really losing me. It is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict that day. But the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally. You can't argue.
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof.
My power as an Archon. There are many—
If that poses a concern—
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or is it that you can't even—
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with—
Isn't that?
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god—
It seems like nobody's buying Farina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone. Please don't— I'm still the same Farina you knew, please.
If what the prosecutor said is true, she—
Did she deceive all of us? And all of— Enough! That's enough. Tell me then, if you have no evidence of another Hydro—
Wow, she came up with yet an— It has been established that all Fontanians can dissolve—
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right here and now to
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, including those of some— So, Miss Farina, if we are to believe that you are indeed the real but if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler—
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years. I guess her suggestion is valid.
If Lady Farina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontanian like all the rest of us. Would she really dare to try?
Lady Farina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you possess the right to decline participation.
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a confession of guilt.
She's just staring at the water with her.
What's going on? Is she really...
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Farina.
What?
Hey! I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! Will you believe me now?
Miss Siegeween, if you're...
Siegeween, don't be nervous. It'll just take a few... That should be...
Please announce the results of...
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Farina was displaying symptoms. She was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected...
Thank you, Miss Siegeween. Lady Farina.
Oh, wait. What did she just say? I didn't get dissolved.
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problem, however, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to dissolve in... We don't want anyone else to lose their...
Yeah, so out of regard for Farina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample and asked the head nurse to serve as an expert witness. It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used. Farina could have...
I can't believe... You... Listen to me, everyone! Think about it! How can you Also, if I Please, everyone, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your archon!
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone.
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for Farina to win.
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone who's two-stepped against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Farina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Farina is... guilty. We shall now turn to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges. According to the judgment of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale, Farina is...
Well, what's wrong? What's the Oratrice's verdict?
No, the Oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus. The Hydro Archon, guilty, to be punished via the death sentence.
The death sentence?
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a myth.
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court, and it's been given to the very person we've worshipped as the god of justice? What an unexpected twist.
Farina's been sentenced to death by the Oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the seriousness of things so she'd tell us the truth. How did things escalate this quickly?
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as its recommendations for criminal sentences, Is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Yeah! Even Vache wasn't sentenced to death by the Oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Indeed. Not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, but now the Oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title.
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! You finally made it.
Any mission...
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water. But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come?
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates.
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I've now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime.
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? So when you say Hydro Archon...
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can... However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make.
Okay, let's try to recall the content. The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon. Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her... This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this... The third slate shows the Hydro Archon seeking into... That reminds Paimon. Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we?
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontanians can be dissolved in primordial seawater. And the first stone slate tells us that long ago, the Hydro Archon used her power to turn Oceanids into humans. This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
That doesn't sound...
The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontanians to dissolve. It seems increasingly likely that the prophecy may come true. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very badly.
That doesn't sound...
It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, Her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing? Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Neuvillette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, as recorded on the stone slates.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an Oceanid. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was forced to take part in a trial meant to make her stay. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The prophecy's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truths should come to light. It now, so but then it feels like...
Let's hear them.
Incredible. Linny, did you...
We're not real human.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late previous... The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians... Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial. All of them in the shape of Oceanids.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese. The twists of history are often the most unexpected of all.
Yeah! Isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate? In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Only then will the sins of the people of Fontaine be washed away. Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information using a different power source. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, I was unable to come. Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt. I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontanians. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. the Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the seven, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontanians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
So we were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontaine.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water, they have not been dissolved, which implies that the nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice. Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the ones making sure it comes true.
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene—
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fact about the fourth slate. You probably thought that the eruption of primordials— However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign as for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe it will— This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find them.
It was both dream and reality.
If we're talking about a true culprit, that could only be that thing inside the primordial sea, right?
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
That's way too close! How did that thing just burst into the Opera House? Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your dream?
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it is chosen. That whale does not belong to Teyvat. It is a monster that has traversed the stars, weeping all the while. It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main cause for the rising sea levels. And once it has finished consuming all of the energy contained within the sea, its next step will be...
You said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontanians out of Oceanids, she filled their blood vessels with primordial seawater.
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of Fontanians nigh impossible to resist. Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of...
We just barely managed to push it back, right? In that case, won't it come back to target the people again?
That is correct. Indeed, it is more accurate to say that we should thank that Harbinger for buying us some time. Without him, from the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite a long...
That battle maniac. We've always known that he had us anyway. Now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the...
It is too late. It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could know... Even if the entirety of Teyvat were to be destroyed.
That's not something I will accept. We've already done everything we can. We've come so far.
Indeed. That's not how a grand
I'll fight it to the end. No.
So the prophecy will be fulfilled no matter what, huh?
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future. Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods, could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods' gaze does not fall? Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Teyvat's future.
What's happening with the oratories?
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Farina! No, I still need answers.
You...
Sorry. That shocked expression on your face is just too amusing. I couldn't help myself.
You are not Farina. Who are you?
The sweet sound of bewilderment. Marvelous.
A sure sign that my attempt to deceive everyone was a resounding success. But to answer your question, I am Focalor. You know, the god.
Focalor, why did you deceive us?
Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. But I had to fool everyone else too, if I was to stand any chance of deceiving the heavenly principles.
Deceiving the heavenly principles?
It's all because of that pernicious prophecy. Dreadful, wasn't it? Everyone doomed to dissolve. Fontaine condemned to be flooded. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my dearest predecessor. That's the former Hydro Archon Egeria, for the uninitiated. It hardly gets more disastrous than a preordained national catastrophe, now does it? She knew full well that the prophecy would surely come to pass. And as one of the seven, she also knew full well that one defies the heavenly principles at one's peril. So yes, as you have no doubt surmised, it was a rather impossible situation that I found myself in. I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. And I was almost growing barnacles by the time I finally realized there was only one possible solution to this confounding conundrum. I had to outwit the heavenly principles, allow the prophecy to be fulfilled, ostensibly at least, while saving everyone at the same time. I'm a genius, I know. I can only assume that's why Egeria chose me as her successor. Although, looking back now, it was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the nation, the quotidian duties of the Hydro Archon, and not to mention the original sin of creating a new race of humans, I dare say she left me quite a colossal mess to clean up. But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to be one of her Oceanid familiars.
So you were also once one of the Oceanids, transformed into a human by Egeria's hand?
Yes, I was. I always dreamed of becoming human. And I still do, even now. In my eyes, to be human is to be part of the greatest opera ever known. After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past self on her first day as a human being. The me you see before you now is that divinity. And the human counterpart I left behind, I named Farina. She could feel joy, sorrow, and everything in between. She could be as vain and conceited, or as meek and vulnerable as she wished. Her strengths were of a kind only a human could possess, as were her shortcomings. But in my eyes, Farina's humanity was what made her perfect. She was perfectly human in every way. The person I always wanted to be. Anyway, so then I cursed her. All part of the plan, of course. The plan to deceive the heavenly principles. Do you still remember the final scene of the prophecy? The Hydra Archon alone, weeping on her throne. In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, I invited Farina to be an actress, to play the part of the Hydro Archon in the prophecy. Under the curse I placed on her, so long as I, Focalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she free to live her life in the pursuit of happiness. Instead, she was forced to take the stage in the opera house, to embrace the role of leading lady, to forever play the part of the god from the prophecy, all to create a deceitful appearance of that prophecy coming to pass. I suppose now you probably understand why your court is called the Opera Epiclese.
But Farina is only human, isn't she? Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being. I cannot begin to fathom what she has had to endure. It must have been torture for her.
It has indeed. And although she is, in a sense, me in human form, I most definitely owe her an apology for it. It's been 500 years, and all along, she's been playing her part in the most unimaginably long, unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful opera of all time.